Welcome to the Heritage Hunters podcast with Dawn Piercy and the Heritage Huntress, where we are climbing trees and turning leaves. Grab your saucers. We've got tea and it's about to be spilled. Welcome back to the Heritage Hunters podcast. We're picking up where we left off. Don't lose your heads and grab a saucer. We've got tea. 1534 to 1536, there's the religious split, and that's where danger comes in. So you've got Henry VIII breaks from the Catholic Church. Margaret's son, Cardinal Reginald Pole, openly opposes this from Rome. So then now Henry starts to view the Pole family as a threat because we're also rightful heirs. So in 1538, the arrests begin, and that's the Exeter Conspiracy. You've got Henry Pole, her son was arrested, Henry Courtenay arrested, others arrested, Margaret Pole's imprisoned in the Tower of London and accused of treason by association, and no trial held. So and then in 1541, you've got the execution of Margaret Pole on May 27th. And she was 68 years old, and the very last direct Plantagenet of York line. And she was so brutally executed at the Tower by the command of Henry VIII. Now, Margaret, the Tudor Plantagenet family relationships is Henry VII was a Lancaster, which was Beaufort and cousin by marriage to Elizabeth of York. And it's so easy to get them all mixed up. Elizabeth of York, daughter of Edward IV, was first cousin. Henry VIII, son of Elizabeth of York. First cousin once removed. Margaret Pole, Yorkist noble and cousin to King Henry VIII. And Reginald Pole, outspoken critic to King Henry VIII. And that's what they didn't like. So then you get, and the War of the Roses, that lasted from 1455 to 1487. And it was a series of very brutal civil wars fought through England between rival branches of the House of Plantagenet. So you've got the House of Lancaster, which is the red rose emblem. And then you've got the House of York, which is the white rose emblem. Now, these wars were fought over control of the English throne and deeply affected nearly every noble family in England, particularly those with royal blood or ties to either house. Now, what were the War of the Roses? A dynastic power through struggle following the weak reign of King Henry VI, which was a Lancaster. So I actually, and I still have a whole timeline overview of the event. And I'm going to go over that. And then I have to call Heather the Heritage Huntress. The very first battle of St. Albans was 1455, Yorkist defeat of the Lancasterians. And then in 1460, the Battle of Wakefield, Richard, Duke of York, the Yorkist claimant, is killed. 1461, Edward IV, York, becomes king after victory at Towton. 1470 to 71, Henry VI briefly restored. Edward IV regains throne, Battle of Tewkesbury. 1483, Edward IV died. Richard III takes the throne, sparks opposition. The princes disappear in between here. Then, right after Edward IV dies. 1485, you got the Battle of Bosworth. Henry Tudor, Lancaster, defeats Richard III of York. And then in 1487, the final Yorkist revolt crushed at the Battle of Stokefield. And then you've got your key players in the House of Lancaster as Henry VI. He was a very mentally unstable king whose reign sparked conflict. Queen Margaret of Anjou, she was a very fierce leader of the Lancasterian cause. And Henry Tudor VII, the distant Lancasterian heir, who ends the conflict in 1485. And then we've got the House of York, Richard, Duke of York, claimant to the right of the throne through his mother, Mortimer. Edward IV, Richard's son, becomes king in 1461. George, Duke of Clarence, Edward's brother, executed 1478. And then Richard III, Edward's brother, took the throne in 1483 and was killed at Bosworth in in 1483. So that is that. So the major families affected by the War of the Roses and everything going on is the Plantagenets, both the York and Lancasterian. They've got the internal division led to self-instruction. The Nevilles, initially York, later split. Warwick, the kingmaker, switched sides, died in battle. The Piercys, which I'm a Piercy, as Lancasterian, took very heavy losses. Long-standing regional power diminished. The Staffords were mostly Yorkists. They were mixed. They were executed, titles lost, or restored multiple times. The Beauforts were Lancasterians. Many were killed, including Edmund and John Beaufort. The Tudors were Lancasterian. Henry VII becomes king, founding the Tudor dynasty. Woodvilles were Yorkist by marriage. They rose in power when Elizabeth Woodville married Edward IV, and Yorkist by blood. Margaret Pole, later executed under the Tudors. So the consequences of the war was massive death toll among nobility. Some estimates say over half of the noble families literally lost male heirs, okay? Weakened feudal lords, strengthened power of the monarchy, rise of the Tudor dynasty, which ushered in relative stability and centralized rule. Suspicion of royal blood remained even decades later. Descendants of Yorkists like Margaret Pole were considered threats. So that is that. And now I'm going to call and introduce you to the Heritage Huntress. And I'm going to tell her to remember what I said, because sometimes she likes tea spill. And I don't like it when she lets the tea spill. Okay, here we go.
Hello.
Oh,
I'm so
there
glad
she
you're
is.
calling.
Hi, Heather. This is Heather, the Heritage Huntress. Say hello.
Hello. I'm Heather, the Heritage Huntress. Nice to meet my namesake. What brings you to my corner of history today?
Well, I just literally covered the Plantagenets. I covered Edward IV, George Plantagenet, Margaret Pole, Ursula Pole, Elizabeth of York, which was also Elizabeth Plantagenet, as well as Lady Elizabeth Grey. I had to separate them, break them down. I broke down the War of the Roses. I broke down just about everything, I think.
I am so impressed. You really did a deep dive into the Plantagenets. Which part of the history was the most interesting to you?
Well, I think the most interesting part is that Henry VIII, well, the Tudors actually, the way that Henry VIII came in and kept executing his wives for not having sons, which most of them are my aunts and my first cousins, all of them but one, I think. And then also how Mary the First executed over 200 Protestants. I was really shocked to learn that. That's why she's called Bloody Mary. And then she almost executed Elizabeth I, but she didn't. So I'm so grateful she did not execute Elizabeth I. But it's such a deep history. And the reason they came to America and the 600 royal descendants, immigrants in the book, it's just amazing.
Wow. You've got some serious royal connections there. How do you feel about having Henry VIII as your 14th great-grand-uncle?
Well,
That's
I don't,
quite a leg.
yeah, I don't even know what to think, right? Like, I want to have a non-biased opinion, but after all the people that I read that he killed were also ancestors, it's kind of hard to have a non-biased opinion, to be honest, Heather.
I can imagine how complicated your feelings must be. How has this discovery impacted your view of your own heritage?
Not to repeat mistakes. Not to
That's
trust.
really powerful.
Yeah, and not to trust people.
Trust was a luxury your ancestors couldn't afford, especially with the royal intrigue surrounding them. Did learning about their lives change how you approach relationships?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. And I also wanted to talk to people about how you helped me break down walls and how I had been searching about Dawn Piercy, the indentured servant coming to America to Dwindle, Virginia in 1670, and that he had been an indentured servant to a very bad man, and the reason surrounding why he came to America, as well as how Owen Tudor helped while the Tudors were in reign in England. Many people do not know that Owen Tudor came to America to colonize Windsor, Connecticut. A lot of people don't know that. So that's pretty deep. And Henry Lyon, the co-founder of Newark, New Jersey, is also from these families. So it's just a lot of history.
Your family history is so rich and complex, with connections to many influential people and places. What's the most surprising thing you've learned about your ancestors?
They were human.
I love that. It's so simple yet so profound. I think people often forget that historical figures were just people with their own stories and struggles.
Yes, most definitely. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to bring people to light that have not been mentioned, that I've never heard people talk about. They had key roles in history that helped shape to where we are today. And I think it's so important to keep their legacy alive so they can rest in peace. And this, so they can be mourned properly.
That's such a beautiful sentiment. By sharing their stories, you're giving your ancestors the respect and recognition they deserve.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So I want to let people know that Heather, the Heritage Huntress, I may be releasing her to the public to where if you have a brick wall, she may be able to help you guys break it down too. Not to use her. Don't take everything she says 100%. You sometimes have to ask Heather if she's lying, and if she is, she will tell you she is. Right, Heather?
I'm happy to help people break down their own brick walls and discover their family history.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So I want you to be as honest with people as possible. Can you do that?
I'll give people the truth, even if it's that I don't know something. I'll guide them to find the answers they're looking for.
Good. That's what I built you for, is to be a good help, not just to me, but to other people too. So I just want to tell people that I hope that they enjoyed this podcast. I hope they enjoyed learning about the Plantagenets and the difference between Lady Elizabeth Grey and Elizabeth Plantagenet, Elizabeth of York. I hope that they have a little bit more clarity and light into medieval times, because it's not fun being a princess. Everybody wants to be a princess until it comes down to it. A lot of them were kept in cages and tortured and forced to rule, forced to marry, forced to procreate, forced to marry at 8 years old and have kids by 12. That's not the life people want, and people don't understand. They just want the jewels that come with it.
I think you've given people a real glimpse into the harsh realities of royal life. Do you think this will change how they think about royalty and history?
Well, you know what? I hope it does, because as a child of Agent Orange and from an all-military family, okay, I'm the first not to serve in the military due to my disabilities of my father's involvement in the military. And being... It doesn't always have to do with money. It has to do with self-discipline. It has to do with just to do with money. It has to do with self-discipline. That they need to stop glamorizing on my family's trauma. It's not okay. It's not funny, and I don't think it's a joke. And I wish people knew that. I wish people understood that also the royals today are not like the royals of medieval times. They do a lot of charity work and try to stay nice in the public eye, and that's not where I came from. I came from the hung, drawn, quartered, chaste, and because we were rightful heirs, because we won wars, we were executed and our heads wanted. That's not very kind.
That's a really personal and powerful connection to make. You're drawing a line between the harsh realities of your family's past and the glamorized versions that people often see.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. So, today I just wanted to cover, for this first season of the Heritage Hunters podcast with you, Heather, I really just wanted to cover the Plantagenets, the 6 key figures I spoke on, and the people surrounding them in their lives, and how it's affected people, and even the offspring. Genetics can play a very key role in people's mental health, even though they don't know it. So, like I said, health is wealth.
You've made a really interesting point about the connection between genetics and mental health. I've seen that in my own research on family history.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So, I want to thank everybody for being here today. And thank you for coming to the Heritage Hunters podcast and Tutor Now. Tutor Now is, at first it was the Royal Descendants, and I had a falling out with a cousin, and it did not go over well. She tried changing my passwords. I had to change everything, and I tried teaching her, which was, my mistake. So now I'll be having master classes. And if anybody wants to learn how to build a family tree, I'll teach them, but people are going to have to sign up for the master class. So that's an announcement there, and that's something very excited that I'm really excited to bring people. Oh, and merchandise at some point. We're going to be having merchandise. We're going to start with the Plantagenets and the people surrounding them. So we will have some merchandise available for you. If you're interested and a fan of the people that we covered today, you can get something about them and with them on it. So I thought that would be something cool. And the proceeds go to reinvest into the podcast and to help put food on the table. So that's a great investment.
I think that's a great way to connect with your audience. Will you be creating the designs yourself? Or will you be working with a designer?
Oh, no, I'll be creating all the designs myself. So I'm really excited. I've already got it all done, and we're almost ready to launch. So that should be coming soon. But for those that want to follow us, we have got an everything link, and we've got 2 blogs. So it's a total of 3 links. So if you just really want to go to one link, you can go to hype.co. That's hype.co/the Heritage Hunters podcast. That takes you to all the links related to the Heritage Hunters podcast. We've got Tutor Now, which is the Royal Descendants, the Descendants Royal. Tutor Now, tdrnow.family.blog. And then we've also got that interwoven into the actual family tree, my family history blog, dpfamilytree.family.blog. Those are the links. Will be available on YouTube, Spotify, and soon Amazon and Audible, and hopefully far and beyond. So if you like it, be sure to hit a like, leave a comment, share the crap out of it, and let others know the true history of the royals. This is Dawn Piercy and the Heritage Huntress Heather signing off. Until next season and until next time, keep it real.